YouTube. Today we will be looking at some data I captured back in 2021 with some pretty affordable filters. The Baader CMOS Optimized Ultra-Narrowband set. I think the whole set is the price of one chroma filter or even less. The object today is called the Soul Nebula. It has many names. It is incredibly beautiful and infrared, but we're going to look at it in narrowband because I do not have an infrared telescope. It's also referred to as IC1848. It is relatively close to the Heart Nebula, so if you have a wide enough telescope, like 300 millimeters, you'll capture them together, the Heart and Soul Nebula. We'll only be looking at the Soul Nebula today, though. So let's get it going. So this is the telescope I used. If you haven't seen my video so far, this is the Officina Stellare RH200. It is really a dream old telescope. It is a 600 millimeter focal length, 200 millimeter aperture, which is the size of the primary mirror, and f3, which is very fast. It is relatively a normal Cassegrain-like telescope compared to the Rasas or the other fancy newer plasticky telescopes. Your camera goes at the back, you have a filter wheel, you have a focuser, you can even put an off-axis guider. It is very good. It works on full frame sensors very well. Mechanically, it is excellent, unlike the other plasticky astrographs out there. And it is very well built. So I've kind of given this introduction maybe 30, 40 times about this telescope. It is great. I'm using a QHY600 mono camera on there. The settings for it are in the description. If you don't know why I'm using those settings, look at the f ratio and you'll figure it out. I'm using a little guide scope from William Optics, a 50 millimeter, which is the thing on top with the AstroZap dew heater. This thing is for flats. It is the Optec flat panel. It is extraordinarily well calibrated for very fast telescopes. The normal sketching pads are not even usable because of the speed of this telescope. And finally, it is on the iOptron CEM120 EC2. EC2 stands for encoders on both axes. It's not really needed, but it's cool to have because the telescope knows where it is at all times, even if you restart it. Also, I'm using chroma narrowband 5 nanometer filters in this particular setup, but for the photo that we're looking at, I was using Baader CMOS Optimized narrowband filters. They're pretty good. I would say if you aren't worried about fixing some halos, you'll be fine. They're actually pretty good. They're affordable. They work relatively well. Sulfur and HA work as closely as possible to chromas. So if they can match up to the best in the industry, then they're pretty good. So let's look at the actual data. I think there's about 20 odd hours of it. Sulfur exists pretty much. There's quite a lot of sulfur in the Soul Nebula. The image is actually cropped. It is a full frame image, but I had more to the left and the right, which made no sense, so I cropped it. The telescope wasn't perfectly collimated at the time, but it sure enough looks great to me. So this is just the stack, flat fielded, and that dark subtracted. So 7 hours sulfur looks good. Oxygen, there's a lot of oxygen in the center of the Soul. The one thing I will say about the Baader filters is the stars are much bigger than chroma stars, and there is haloing. As you can see, it's pretty much everywhere. And that's fine. With the advancements in processing and AI assisted deconvolution, I think you might be able to get away with a decent image. And that's, I think, how I got away with the image I'm going to show today. So if you have cheap filters, buy the Blood Exterminator. If you have expensive filters, buy it anyway. That's pretty good, and you'll fix a lot of these haloing issues. You can play with the settings to fix that. Moving on to hydrogen, which is always incredibly beautiful. You can see a lot of dark nebulosity. I've done a video and a tutorial on this particular part of the Soul Nebula taken with a large 16-inch IDK. You can see it in my channel. It's also a tutorial on how to process SHO images. I'm gonna probably shoot this at some point with my 12.5-inch RC. I really like this part of the Soul Nebula. I would almost frame it to capture the image like this because the nebulosity is pretty cool. So hydrogen looks great, star looks great, this dark nebulosity, this dust looks great. Let's look at the stack. Before I look at what my first processes was, this was the stack. I had some issues with guiding at the time. I don't remember why. I think it was something to do with the peer flexing or something that I eventually fixed by trial and error. The image itself looks really good. This is, nothing's done to it. It's just been stacked as a regular SHO image, sulfur for red, hydrogen for green, and oxygen for blue. Nothing special. Now this is the first processed image that I had with this. Looks really good. I actually included hydrogen as luminance, but you get somewhat more detail from the hydrogen, but you lose some of the kind of color and the saturation that you get from an SHO. So although having hydrogen as luminance can get you theoretically more emission nebula, I'm not really convinced it's worth it all the time. In some extraordinary cases it is, when there's a lot of nebulosity, like the Orion Nebula or even the Horsehead. So this is what I had the first time. This is the final stack. It looks good. It looks okay. But let's see what I got. So what I did next is extracted the stars. I rotated the image and extracted the stars. The stars I won't touch for a while. All I can do to them is, after the image is stretched, remove the magenta halos by inverting the image and applying an SCNR on green. Now what I did here is I took this image, I stretched it, I removed the green, I applied a lot of S-curves to basically make sure that it looks to my taste. So as a quick example, you would open curve transformation, open your preview, and start applying these kind of S-like curves. It's up to you how much you want to do. I have a point where I'm really happy with the image. More, it's almost like saturation. More would look kind of unesthetically, or it wouldn't be as nice, and the same with the luminance. I really try to get to a very good point where I'm happy with it. So this is what it looks like. There were some artifacts, there were some stars, or I don't know, whatever Musk is flying to give internet to somebody up there, and you can see the lines here. And I had to remove those Kappa Sigma clipping. For some reason didn't get rid of them. It looks like I caught a pretty big satellite in one of the frames, and I think that's why it might have not worked. Usually I don't see these. The only things that are annoying are the airplane lights. Now, lastly, let's see the final image. After I stretched the image, I took it into Photoshop for texturization, color mixing, and a few other things, and cleaning up some of the artifacts in the background that were not removed by the stacking algorithm. After that was done, I brought it back into PixInsight, ran a simple noise exterminator on it, and it looks nice. It's clean. It's the kind of color scheme that you see from most of my image, where it's not really golden, but it's a reddish tint, which is something I really like. Hydrogen and sulfur are red, so will my images. And then using the pixel math technique that I described a while ago from James Lamb, I'll put a link in the video below. I actually brought back the stars, and they look a lot better. Usually there's a balance on how to process stars. Starless images can be relatively easy to process. You just get rid of the stars and go to town. But when you bring the stars back in, or you process the image of the stars, you get to have all sorts of artifacts. If the stars are in, you'll see these weird circles around the stars, which is because they were stretched, they were reduced. There's many reasons why, but I found the best way to add the stars back in was with that pixel math algorithm that James Lamb wrote, and I'll put a link in the description. This is the final image. I liked it. I haven't shot the Soul Nebula a lot, to be honest, as the entire target. I've shot That particular region that I was talking about, which is this one, with my old trust tube, I helped a friend set it up, and then I processed this data with the 16-inch. So I haven't really shot it entirely. I plan on shooting both the soul and the heart with the Radiant 61 soon, once it stops raining in California. And but that's it for now. I submitted this to the NASA team, and it got a mention, which means who knows, maybe someday I might get an Apod for it. I think it's a good image. I think it looks great. Can't wait to see what you guys think in the comments. If you like my content, if you like my videos and my images, please don't forget to comment, subscribe, share, whatever you can do to show my work to more people. I'd greatly appreciate it. And when you see my images online, if you want to post these, please ask for permission. I've had enough people take my images from Facebook, post them on Instagram, and not even mention me in them. It's annoying because this equipment is hard to maintain. It's hard to calibrate. It's not cheap. You don't get it for free. And there's also hours and hours of processing. So every astrophotographer is more than happy to give people their images if they're mentioned and tagged properly. So thank you for watching my video. I'll see you in the next video as soon as I have more stuff to show. Until next time, clear skies.